as voicers come in. Voicers, if you can turn your cameras on. There they are. I see one. I see two. Whoops. Wrong button. Sorry. All right, whenever you are ready.
All right, sure. So I can share my screen and we can start. Well, guess I need to make a new share to include the computer sound. Yeah. So hello everyone. Good afternoon. We're the team Voicers. We are a team of 4 people. So Max and Quan are the programmers. Min is a designer, and I'm the producer of this project. Our project instructors are Mike and Ricardo. So first, Quan will give a brief introduction about the project.
Thanks, William. So our goal for this project is to create an educational and promotional web experience for our client, BGEA, Blind Girl Equity Alliance, and it should mainly focus on raising the general public's awareness about the inequity issue blind girls suffer, as well as what BGEA has done for this community. For this reason, rather than narrow down to a very specific audience group, we targeted at the general public, from local pizza to nationwide in the future. As for metrics, client satisfaction, story engagement, and deliverable quality are our biggest concerns. That's why we started the background research very early, and among all the materials we found, this documentary is the most meaningful one. Especially its interview part, which gives us many details about what is happening in the current education system, not just the problems, but also the wishes of these blind girls. And Min's gonna talk more about the web design.
Thank you, Quan. Now I'm gonna talk about the design of the whole web experience. There are 6 sections in the whole web page. First is an intro, and then there's a story section comprised of 4 scenes. After that, there's some background information and introductions to BGA's group. Finally, after a game experience, there will be a chance for the visitors to leave their opinions in the interactive survey. Within each story scene, there are 2 versions. One is the reality and the other is the vision. By this way, we not only want to draw the audience attention to the vital issues Black girls are facing, but also try to provide positive information as much as possible. There will be a switch shared in both versions to change the mode. As for the interaction, there will be several interactive objects in each scene. Related data will pop up in a window to reveal detailed situations of the Black girls' lives. Let's see some demo. In the first story scene, we introduce our heroine, Black girl. After the user clicks each item, windows will pop up saying her feelings and thoughts. With this depressing desk scene, we want to raise questions and the curiosity of the user about what is happening in this Black girl's life. The school building is a switch. Once the user clicks it, a refreshing dawn scene will replace this dusk one, where the user can see all the positive hopes by clicking those items. In the referral scene, you can see the referral and bullying data after clicking the police car and the paper plane. Once you click the light, an ideal image of the Black girl quietly studying will replace the fighting scene. But to achieve this goal, we need the school, the police, and the justice system to provide solutions to make the changes. After you click those items, related solutions will be provided. At the same time, we keep the pose and position of the girl the same to maintain the consistency and exaggerate the contrast. In the third scene, the user needs to find all the items and put them back to the initial places to change the messy environment into a safe and tidy classroom. By clicking the clock, the user comes to this brighter classroom where the triangular ruler can be clicked to get more explanation. In the final story scene, the topic is community with shared experience. The girl rebuilds herself and makes more friends with BGA's help. By clicking items one by one, users can see workshops for Black girls, solutions to achieve this goal, and finally, a happy and hopeful ending. In the following background section, we will briefly introduce what is happening in this system with high-level statements. We will talk about what Black girls are facing in 4 aspects, including education, child welfare, juvenile justice, and health. Next is the BGEA section. We will show some featured videos from BGA's group. As well as some quotes from their members to better illustrate their services and values. In the end, there's an interactive survey section. We use 2 main questions to help us better understand what users have learned by exploring this web experience. After the user clicks one option, instant visual feedback can help users locate which answer group they are in, also reflects the effectiveness of the web experience design. The other question is to gather users' opinions on their willingness to help support Black girls' lives after this experience. They can see the average value right after submitting the answer. Next, Max will talk about the game experience design.
Thank you so much, Mings. So for the game, we want to create a short experience because we want to treat the mini game experience as a short and quick extension of the main landing page. Also, the game itself is not going to be skill-based because the main idea of here is to review ideas related to our landing page instead of making a fancy game for gamers. Also, we prepared a surprise element at the end of the mini game experience to increase the overall appealing level of the game. Now we will show a quick recording of the game. The minigame is a straightforward 2D platformer where the player is going to control this black circle right here. The goal is to enable this black circle to jump onto the rightmost platform, which is the final destination for the experience. After soft, we received several feedback from faculty members and fellow colleagues. We made several iterations on the art asset and the UI stuff. We also put a lot of emphasis and a lot of work on the responsiveness of the whole experience so that it can run on most mobile and PC devices. As you can see, I record this video on my own personal iPhone X, which is an iOS mobile device. All the UI and all the images are scaled properly according to the screen size. We still have the unreachable platform at the end of the scene, which represents the unreachable difficulties that the player character cannot overcome by himself. Then the player character needs to reach out for help, and a magical lifter will appear. This lifter represents the help from others. And the main idea we are trying to cross over through this experience is the fact that life can be full of difficulties. Do not hesitate to reach out for help when needed. And with other people's help, the player character can reach to the height that is previously considered as unreachable. And for the final iterations, we also switch out the graph that we showed in the soft. One of the main feedback we received from soft is the fact that our previous graph was showing negative image on the black population. So we switched the previous graph into the current one, which shows the difference between fourth grade black and white students each year. And as you can see, the difference is actually become smaller and smaller as the years comes, which shows a bright future for the black community.
Yeah, so thanks, Max. And I will continue to talk about our playtest and iteration process. Google Analytics is our primary source of feedback. We found that most users made it through to the survey part, which is good. However, we found that not many users clicked through the game via the navbar, and they didn't even notice the navbar. Thus, we added a section to encourage more people to experience our minigame. And here's how it looks like in the whole landing page. So after this change, apparently, more people get a chance to experience our minigame. We have some iterations as well for the game. At first, we're trying to avoid any stereotype and use the pure black extensively. However, the color contrast is not very obvious and game UX would be affected. So after that, we tried some golden items, but some of them may be expensive, like a golden crown standing for power. So finally, we used a golden key to represent the goal. Also, for the graph, at first, we use a graph in the front stage to show the black girls are more likely to be referred to juvenile justice. However, some feedback saying it's a little bit conflicting with the oral message we're trying to convey. Thus, we changed it to a more positive graph, saying that although there are still some systematic issues, things are becoming better with the help from other organizations like BGA. So another way is usability testing via interview and questionnaires. We have totally 3 rounds of usability testing. 2 of them are online questionnaires, and in one of them, the team conducted UX testing on 20 people while letting them think aloud. The overall feedback is quite positive. Users feel the whole story is easy to understand, and they are satisfied when using the website. However, there are still some UX issues, and we fixed them respectively. So our timeline, before half, we spent more time on the research and brainstorming and design. We finished 1 story scene. And after halves, we spent more time on the development and implementation. We have all the 4 story scenes finished. We added a game section and also some other sections to the website. Also, interactive survey with our backend technology. Also, lots of work on deployment, handoff, responsiveness, support of multi-platforms, and many rounds of iterations. So finally, Quan will talk more about the tech side.
So this is the architecture of our project. For the game part, we use gdevelop, which is an powerful 2D game engine for minigame. For the web part, React plus Django is our choice, which is our traditional approach for web design. We also add Google Analytics to analyze users' behavior, and the whole project is deployed on an EC2 server. So how to make our web responsive is one of the biggest concerns of the source. In order to do this, we roughly divide our devices into 3 categories by screen width. Then we adjust all the sections one by one to fit in this resolution range. It's really a time-consuming work because we need to make sure every detail is displayed properly. Another big concern is how to hand off our project smoothly to the client. Like we mentioned, the whole project is deployed on an AWS EC2 instance with a free 1-year plan. So the easiest way is to hand off the AWS account so the client could use our web right away without any tech skills. But in case they want to set up the project as somewhere else or make any modifications, we also include deploy instruction in the tech doc so that the client could customize and deploy the project on their server. After we last meeting, the client decided to use our current website, which is free for the first year. After that, they could renew the plan or host it elsewhere if needed. So in summary, we use the story section to show reality and the vision of Blind Girls' lives, the background and BGA section to introduce BGA services and values, a gamified experience to re-emphasize the hurdles in Blind Girls' lives, and finally an interactive survey to reflect the user's understanding and awareness after they explore this experience. So we want to say thank you to our instructors and clients and the people who have helped us. That's it for our presentation and the questions so far.
All right.
Woo!
Congratulations,
Thanks,
team.
voicers.
Good job.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Any questions? They can help filter them in, or just raise your hand, or just speak up.
I got a quick question. I like how you're leading people through this story, and I like how you looked into retention. I appreciate all that. But when you were in the pictures and there's the switch items like the lamp and the schoolhouse, does it matter if they hit that first or last, or is there a specific order they're supposed to be clicking on things in there? And does it matter to the way they're consuming the content? Did that question make sense?
Yeah, so actually the order doesn't matter. So they can in fact go back whenever they want to.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Go ahead, David. Is that you?
Mo had a question. Sorry.
Yeah, just a quick question. I like that you re-explored the ending graph for the game. I didn't quite get the correlation. Can you go back to that slide, or maybe let us look at that again, or
here?
So yeah, if you could kind of explain what the graph turns into, that would be great.
Yeah, so originally we used this referral rates graph. So actually these two bar charts are in the map of the game, which is like an aha moment. But actually it's a little bit conflicting, because the oral message we're trying to convey is that although there are some issues, but things are becoming better. And this graph is kind of negative. So we changed the map a little bit. So this bar chart is still in the map, which is still the metaphor in the game. And this graph is saying that although there are still some gaps between black girls and white girls, but things are becoming better. Like the gap is being narrowed down with the help of all these organizations.
Okay, thank you. Got it.
Yeah, no problem.
Ralph, you want to
go? Never mind. I'm going to hold my question. I think it was answered.
Time for one more.
I have a quick question. Can you tell me what the biggest surprise was in your investigation of this population?
You mean like the biggest prize during our whole project? Right?
Yeah, sure. Like, what did you learn that you sort of went, oh, I didn't know that?
Yeah, so actually we found that most of the problems are systematic issues, like, which is really surprising. Like there are some, like just like I said, the referral rate of black girls are like 2.5 times compared with their white peers. I think this kind of data is really surprising, because like we know that if they're like fighting with each other, then black girls are more likely to be referred to the juvenile justice. So it's kind of surprising, and I think it's some systematic issues which need to be solved.
Yeah. I'm laughing only because, yeah, the systematic process needs a lot of work. Thank you.
All right, congratulations, team. Good job. Thank you very much. So if voicers can mute and turn off your video, and if, who's up next? ProtoChamp. If ProtoChamp can turn on video so I can see you. All right, that's who I saw first. Find you, I find you, I find you. Who am I missing? Oh, there he is. Coming, Ryan. I'm coming. All right, that's all of you.
Yeah,
whenever you're
that's
ready.
all of us. All right, we have everyone. So time to roll out ProtoChampers. Let me put my stuff up there. Okay, just give me a thumb up if you can see the screen and see the slides, and we're ready to go. Let me put share my computer sound. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to Team ProtoChamp's final presentation. Here's our awesome team members. And we are working on a faculty pitch discovery project here on Heather, Mo, and Ricardo, our faculty advisors on this project. So at the beginning of this semester, the objective that we set for ourselves was to explore the engagement behind extra gaming. However, after we did research on existing products like Ring Fit Adventure, Peloton, and the Crystal Bike, we realized that they have already succeeded in providing extra gaming experience with their own hardware solution, which left little space for us if we consider going into the same direction. We then took a step back and looked at ourselves. Since the pandemic started, we tend to spend most of the time just sitting in front of a desk, working, studying, doing Zoom calls. This schedule gradually took the time when we're supposed to hit the gym or even playing Ring Fit Adventure in the living room. Then the question for us is, can we make exercise happen in the same physical space? With this question in mind, we began to rethink on target audience demographic. In our mind, they are 20 to 25 years old college students who are working from home during this pandemic. They usually have a constant daily schedule, have gaming experience, and also in need for exercise whenever they have the time. More important, instead of having exercisers to gaming, which those existing products are already doing so, we aim to bring gamers to do more exercise. The next step for us is to pick the platform. We found that exercise back pedals is a good match for our case, since it has a potential to be used on our desk. And with the fidget meta sensors attached, we could easily get the RPM data as game input. To help understand our initials and approach on this idea, this is the official commercial we made for our target audience.
2020 changes the way we live indoors. We now spend 99% of our waking time in front of our desk. We study in front of our desk. We work in front of our desk. We have meals in front of our desk. But have you ever thought about doing exercise in front of your desk, or even when you are working? Now ProtoChamp is bringing a brand new exergaming experience right in your bedroom. With this set of hardware, you are now granted with the easiest access to effective exercises. Pedal whenever you want, with different exercise patterns available. The game experience is well designed to provide a sense of achievement, along with decreased awareness of exertion. It's time to embrace the new norm. No need to wait for Cyberpunk in 2077. Get ProtoChamp now in 2020.
Yeah, so with that idea in mind, the question for us is to answer, the question for us to answer now turns into, how can we provide an engaging extra gaming experience on the back pedals? To answer that, we built a total of 6 prototypes, along with a long-term experience as our final deliverable. We also discovered some interesting findings that will be helpful for extra gaming design on the pedals throughout our whole prototyping process. And next, I will hand it to Ethan to talk about our work before halves.
Thank you, Michael. Before halves, we designed and built 3 prototypes in a different approach and get some insight to clarify our project direction. And we gather all the previous experience and merge into the final deliverable. Our initial prototype is a unicycle adventure. After we got information from survey, and we decided to go with back pedal as input devices, we come this idea. The game is about controlling the unicycle, crossing obstacles, and reaching the goal. The game is quite simple, but we learned several things. The main takeaway about this game is the interval between start and stop pedaling will result in the disconnection and interruption of the exercising. So we learned how to design and consider the pedal pattern for REST prototypes. And we also learned the key factor of engagement in the exergaming depends on the target audience. The next prototype is an idle game. With the first prototype experience, we narrowed down our target users and focused on the user who spent many hours sitting on the seat working from home. The goal of this game is to build and develop an empty planet, and the way that players obtain resources is by paddling. These prototypes include collection functionalities and social networking function like friend list and leaderboard. The collection function can enhance the user stickiness and engagement. The leaderboard will strengthen the connection between players. Both experience teaches how to improve the long-term stickiness adventure in the future prototypes. And the last prototype we did before HAPS was Robot Fight. Instead of exercising while working, the Robot Fight is a game focusing more on doing exercise while playing games. The game is about to customize the robots and power the robots by paddling to defeat enemies. The more powerful the robot is, the more energy it will need. As a result, the faster the user should paddle. In this prototype, we learn how to include effective training pattern like high-intensity interval training into the game. We also found that the distraction from the gameplay helps provide decreased awareness of discomfort. In our final prototypes, we use the same technique to reduce the player's discomfort. And Aubrey will talk about the prototype we did after HAPS.
Thanks, Tom. After HAPS, we decided to go with rhythm game since its mechanism has the potential to draw players' attention, so that we are less aware of doing exercise. Also, rhythm game allows us to modify the soundtrack in order to match the HIIT pattern and provides a good opportunity to introduce your upper body motion. Our prototype start by relying on the webcam to collect users' movement of clapping and head turning to change the trail in the rhythm game. Based on the playtest we have done for this prototype, we realized that adding upper body movement can make our players feel like an energy-consuming game. However, turning head and looking somewhere else creates disconnection for the players, and such movements create the kind of decrease the sense of mastery. Moving to second prototype, we removed head turning and added the hand movement of collecting music notes. And with lip motion, we realized that visual feedback such as hand models are really helpful for players to control their body movements. However, raising their arm up in the air feels like a little bit unsure about where to place their hands. By taking pros and cons from prototype number 1 and 2, we changed back to the webcam since it applies to basically all laptops and PCs. At the same time, we added direct visual feedbacks to the webcam detections. Also, using webcam allows players to put their hands in a relatively comfort zone, and they can even hold any object such as dumbbell to increase the intensity of doing this exercise. With all these changes, we increase the sense of mastery of the player in this rhythm game. Next, Simon will talk about our final deliverable.
Thanks, Aubrey. So for our final product, we combine two different game experience, the idle game and the rhythm game, into one. The player's goal is to flourish the planets by generating seeds from the machine. Player needs to paddle to provide necessary energy for plants to grow. Player can also gain resource for the machine by playing the rhythm game, paddling along to match the tempo of the background music while moving the arm to catch the incoming notes will grant player scores. In these two experiences, we provide two different training patterns, the high interval training for rhythm game and low intensity states for idle game. In order to provide player a sense of social connection, we also create a score system. As we conduct our internal playtesting, here's the leaderboard. We also got the feedback that the player are not paying attention to the pedal and a sense of exercise coming afterwards. Next, I'll hand it to Ryan to talk about what we learned.
Thanks, Simon. I will talk about what we learned during this semester. So we focused on two factors of extra gaming that affect players' experience, the senses of achievement and exertion. We explored a few ways to increase the sense of achievement. First, we try to give players more sense of success by instant game data. For example, in the rhythm game, we ranked user input as different levels, calculated the player's score, and counted combo number and miles they have paddled. Second, we transferred players' exercise results into collection. Users could collect assets and customize their own planet by both low and high intensity game modes. From our own experience, these factors they help build sense of achievement, but we also had some failed attempts. For exergaming, increasing difficulty is different from the normal games. In our third prototype, the players will get physically tired sooner by powering a stronger robot. The final score didn't vary a lot compared with just powering a simple robot for a longer time. As a result, the players will pay more efforts but did not feel the sense of achievement. And we also added the leaderboard into our game as social component. We also tried different ways to decrease the awareness of exertion. I will first talk about some failed attempts and experiences. In our first prototype, players change their paddle speed very frequently. In our third prototype, players should paddle, change directions, and aim enemies at the same time. The weapon also has different parameters and directions. There are too many decisions to be made, which is difficult for players to focus. Besides, in our leap motion prototype, players use their hands to trigger the nodes, but the monkey actually claps when a node is triggered. The mismatch is a distraction. So we updated the monkey animation, which indicated the user input instead of clapping. This experience was also applied in our final product. Third, in our rhythm game prototype, at first we distribute the UI all over the screen, but our play testers always focus on the center of the screen, so some important information was missing, such as the UI instructing players to paddle faster or slower. So we put such UI at the center and added more contrast. There are also some mechanisms that turn out to be working. For example, we combine upper and lower body movement. Both of them were still simple, especially the lower body movement, which is also the more tiring part. As a result, players could focus more on the upper body movement and it decreased their awareness of exertion. The last one is the audio and visual feedback. We adjusted contrast to highlight the areas that should be focused on, added effects when node is hit, move the monkey with the music beat, and use different music pitches to direct players paddle faster or slower. All these things were designed for making players focus more on the game itself. And next, Daphne will talk about our further exploration.
Thanks, Ryan. Two directions that we think would be worth further exploration in the exergaming field are resistance and heart rate. The hardware that we are using in our project is a simple under-the-desk pedal system, and we measure RPM using a magnetic sensor. Being so simple and cost-effective, it's accessible for our target audience, but it's a little limited in what it can do. More expensive systems that include resistance are available, but we strayed away from using them as they're a very big commitment that most of our target audience can't afford. This doesn't mean that it's not useful to explore how resistance affects experiences in games that are similar to ours. Using hardware with programmable resistance would allow adding high and low resistance portions for a more immersive experience, such as having a curved trail with uphill and downhill motion. It also allows adding in difficulty options. Another route that could be explored further is using heart rate measurements. We had considered adding a heart rate monitor to the project, but like with resistance, decided not to because of our target audience. Most people who don't work out yet don't own a Fitbit or something similar. If we were to add that in, the player's heart rate could affect the experience, similar to a previous ETC project called Cardioactive, and it could also be tracked over time for people that want to measure long-term changes. Next up, Michael's going to conclude the presentation.
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie. So in our matrix metrics, we value prototyping, documentation, gameplay, and interactivity as the most. And as the conclusion, we built a total of 6 prototypes exploring different interaction with the pedals and documented our findings throughout the process as postmortems. To recap, we are Team ProtoChamp. We're designing an engaging exergaming experience on the pedals, and we are now open for questions.
All right, great job, team. Yay. All right, any questions? Throw them in chat or raise your hands. Dave will help facilitate.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, my question is on the final prototype. You had access to the hardware, I assume. How often was it used? Did you keep using it? Was it used every day? And did you come back to it after you didn't have to do it anymore, or did you give up on it?
So the question is about the frequency, about how we use our final product. So I can answer that personally. I use that for the idle game, the low intensity steady state pattern. I pedal that for around 30 minutes every day. But I have to be honest that I don't use the rhythm game with the high intensity very often. It's just like 2 or 3 times per week, just to try if I can like beat my teammates on the leaderboard.
Yeah, I'm a little bit of the opposite. I like doing the rhythm game more just because I like rhythm games and like things like Just Dance, similar to that. So I enjoyed being able to like kind of dance to the music.
I had a question about what data you use to support your findings on that your audience would not have when you made your decisions about heart rate and resistance, that your users either couldn't afford or didn't have Fitbits or the equipment necessary. I'm just curious how you found that information.
Yeah, so a lot of that came from either personal or like talking to other people at the ETC. A lot of the more expensive sort of products like Peloton and Espresso Bike, excuse me, are really expensive, like in the thousands range for a lot of them. So we wanted to try and just make sure that we were as affordable as possible for college students. And then for the like Fitbit stuff, kind of similar, just unless you actually like do some sort of exercise beforehand, you're not likely to own it. Like knowing it, like people that have worked out before might own it, but it's more so just like people that are gamers normally and then don't actually work out. So that's what we were kind of trying to aim towards.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
All right, John, you got a question? Go for it.
So I might have just missed this when I was taking notes. How many people outside of your team were able to, I tried the videos, right? But how many people outside of your team were able to actually pedal and try this?
Yeah, so I can take the question. So as our team, we only conduct 1 day of playtesting at the ETC building in person one. And we have like a total of 8 playtesters that come to playtest our rhythm games prototype on that day.
And can you just tell me where did that fall in the semester? What prototypes were they trying at that time?
The one with the rhythm game with the
so around halves, somewhere in there?
Yeah, after halves.
Okay, thank you. That helped. Thank you.
Yeah.
Time for one more? All right, good job, team. Congratulations. Yay.
Thank you.
All right, so if you all can turn your mics and video off, and we're going to get hyperpickle going here. Let's see, who do I see for? Oh, there's a hyperpickle. One. I'm on it. One more. Where'd you go? Is that everybody or is that everybody?
Let me check. I think we're still missing Lucy. Is she? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Muzi has some issues with her camera, so she probably cannot turn on her camera. But I think she's here.
I've got 5 of you with the cameras on. So if you're ready.
Yeah, so before we start, we want to try if the permission for remote control and screen sharing is on. So
Okay.
Just give us a second. Aiden, can you try that?
Got it.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's working. Cool. So yeah, I think we can start. So hello guys, we are Team Hyperpickle, and this is the team, and these are our faculty advisors, Ruth and Heather, and this is our client, the Scilab team from Carnegie Mellon University, and Pickle CDF is a 2-week-long online cybersecurity contest hosted by our client. And the contestants are assigned with a number of CTF challenges on cybersecurity. They need to reverse engineer or hack or do whatever it takes to solve the challenges. And our team, Hyperpickle, is creating a web game for Pickle CTF 2021. Our game will be a companion game for the contest. And our final deliverable will be the game build along with the tech documentations and the branding materials so that our client can promote the game on their social media. And our key matrices are our client requirements, gameplay, and quality assurance, which is mainly the performance of our game on low-end PCs, as well as a bug-free experiment. And next, let's welcome Andrew to introduce our game.
Thank you, JD. A Drooping Odyssey is a space exploration game with an economy built on Pico CTF challenges. A Drooping Odyssey's target audience is middle and high school students, and to be clear, the game is not meant to educate the players, nor do we design any Pico CTF challenges. The game is meant to engage and entertain the players with the intention of encouraging them to stay involved in the competition and try and solve a few more Pico CTF challenges. In-game, the player is a lead diplomat of an interstellar trade organization and is tasked to go explore a star system that has signs of intelligent life. Their hyperjump module breaks after entering the system, so the player must befriend the intelligent creatures of the system via trade to get the parts needed to repair their hyperjump module in order to return home. One way our game does tie back into cybersecurity is that each of the inhabited planets has its own language. These languages are represented by encrypted text. Some encryptions are simpler, such as the words being backwards, while others are more complex, such as the ROT 13 being shown here. Our core gameplay loop will have the player traveling to different planets, mining resources on the uninhabited planets, and trading resources on the inhabited ones. After a good amount of traveling, players can spend their required resources on ship upgrades. Players will also be fulfilling deliveries that the various inhabitants request of them in order to gain their friendship and get closer to repairing their hyperjump module. Solving CTF challenges rewards players with an amount of a special token, which functions much like a mobile game premium currency. The tokens can be spent on speeding up travel time or instantly getting some resources the player is missing in order to complete an upgrade. Instead of spending money, our players will solve challenges to get tokens. Next, Aiden will walk you through a live demonstration of our game.
Thank you, Andrew. So this is our demo, and this is the Drooping solar system. The planets that are not visited yet are shown in black, and up here are the resources and their names. And this is the Pico CDF token. Now let's click on our current planet. The camera will zoom in and you will see the detailed information about it. This is the planet with the inhabitant. So we can do trade and finish the quest on this planet. We'll click on trade first. So players can exchange resources with the inhabitant on this panel. And let's click on quest. Seems like the inhabitants trying to say something to us, but we can't understand the language. Actually, they are giving us a quest, and the goal of the game is to fulfill all the quests of all inhabitants on 4 different planets. So in order to understand their language, we need to upgrade our spaceship. There are translators on our spaceship. As you can see, upgrading needs resources, and there are 2 ways in our game to get resources. The first one is trading, and the other one is mining. To mine, we need to first to get to a non-inhabited planet. We'll click on this one. We'll click on go. So you can see here, there's a progress bar that shows the travel status. And you can see the remaining travel time is about 9 minutes. And we can use Pico CTF token to boost our traveling. Currently, you have 39 tokens. And we come back here to the challenge page. and we choose one, and we use the cheat code to solve this challenge. We'll come back here, and we have 42 tokens. So we are giving players token based on the points they solved, based on points of the challenges they solved. So now we can boost the traveling. Okay, now we're here, and we can mine on non-heaven planet. And this is the mining mini game. And there is a density list. You can see, so each mineral, these are minerals, each mineral is a compound of one of the resources and the stone. So if the players want to figure out which resource is in the mineral, they need to do some math. So let's just click on one of the minerals, and our resources increase accordingly. So now let's upgrade our translator for the Ian. And we can also use the token to buy resources. Now we have the translator, and let's travel back to Ian. And also use the token to boost. All right, we're here and click on quest. And now we can understand the language. So this is our game's core loop. Traveling, trading, mining, and fulfilling the quest. Next, Evelyn will talk about our game's art part.
Thanks, Aiden. So the goal of the 3D art for this game is to keep the interest of the contestants for 2 weeks, and also encourage students who are not familiar with cybersecurity to also engage in this game. In order to achieve this goal, we first need to make the world building convincing. When designing the planets, we build infrastructures and plans that fit the inhabitants' lifestyle. And when we create inhabitants, we also develop biological features to match their living environments. For example, on the icy planet, we create ice houses for the creatures to live in, and we also created thick fur on the inhabitants to prevent themselves from the extreme cold. Secondly, we also have to make the art intriguing. We try to create a cartoony art style by using vibrant colors, effects, animations related to interactions, and also customized things linked to the badge system. All this together provides players visual attractions, freedom, and motivation to discover their own journey in this game. And this is an overview about our spaceship skins and badges. And next, we'll discuss on the tech part.
So thanks, Evelyn. So next, I'll briefly discuss about our tech part. So this is our overall development pipeline. We're using Unity as the assembler of all the assets and as well as the game designs. And our final target platform is WebGL. And during the semester, one of our biggest tech challenges is the backend communication. So we have established a stable server connection between the game and the server. So we are storing data in a efficient data format as well as using proper protocols. And also some other challenges are how do we implement the Pickle CDF challenges into the HTML pages, and also an anti-cheating system in the game, because we have an idle game element, and we don't want the players to simply cheat by modifying their local time. And also, we are developing a reusable framework for the future Pickle CDF team. So this is our overall framework of the game. So our client, the Scilab team, can focus on the challenges development, and future game team can just replace the whole game into the framework. So they don't need to worry about handling the challenges solutions. And also, we're handing out a configuration file for our client to modify stuff in the game. So in this way, the game development is more flexible and can iterate faster. Finally, it's the performance, because our target audience are mainly using Chromebook as their device. So we have applied a Chromebook from the ECC and doing our weekly performance tests on the Chromebook. And it turns out that our game is running smoothly on it. And besides that, we're doing daily branch tests as well as weekly performance tests on the Chromebook. So next, let's welcome Liangjun to talk about our iteration process.
Thank you, JD. I'd like to discuss how we conducted playtests and use the playtest feedback to iterate our game. So for the very first ETC playtest, the goal was mainly to make sure if the players understood the game mechanics and the goal, as our game had a relatively complicated economy. So in total, we had 13 playtesters, including 4 high school students who were our target audience. And overall, we received pretty positive feedback on our gameplay, as the most players understood the goal of the game. Players also showed their fondness for planning design and encrypted dialogue. The biggest challenge we faced was the players' dissatisfaction with the lengthy onboarding process and their confusion over our in-game systems. So the change we made here were mainly in 2 parts. The first is to separate the story from the tutorials, and the second is to use in-game tutorial images as a non-compulsory but very useful hint. And in week 13, we had the second round of playtesting, this time with sample Pickle challenges implemented on the game website. The goal of this playtest was mainly to find out if the players understood the relation between the game and the contest, and if our game did a good job of leading the players to try challenges. The result was mostly positive. Players understood the token challenge relationship pretty well, and fewer bugs were reported than the last time. However, as from our peer UI designers' feedback, we still need to polish our UI consistency, which we will work on later. And soon, during the soft in week 14, the faculty liked our space theme, and our in-game economy seemed to be working. The challenges left were mainly keeping and polishing our user experience and make sure the game is robust enough throughout, since it's a delivery project.
I think he froze.
Yes.
So this is the travel timetable. The plan is travel timetable, and we upgrade this travel time during our playtest feedback, because we increase the travel time, also increase the boost time for token to make it more valuable. Yeah.
And in addition, we also lowered the score threshold for contestants to get the spaceship skins according to the average score contestants obtained in the previous games. And this is the UI and art asset polishment we've made after the softs according to our feedbacks. So next, I'll jump into the conclusion part. So in this semester, we've learned a lot, and here are our 3 biggest takeaways. So first, it's still with a team that is not including a UI designer and a story writer. And the second is how to build alongside stakeholders and fulfilling our client requirements. And third is how to maximize the feedback gained from playtesters, because we are doing a remote playtest and there's limited amount of playtesters. So with all above, we have put together our final product, A Dropian Odyssey. We have handed in our game build along with the technical documentations, configuration files, and branding materials to our client. And the game will finally be online on March the 16th of 2021. A lot of thanks to our client and all the people who have helped us within this semester. And finally, we are Team Hyperpickle. We are creating a web game for Pickle CTF 2021, and our game will be a companion game for the Pickle CTF. And now we are open for questions.
All right, great job, team.
Hyperpickle,
You handled your tech stuff. And we got Musi. She made it finally. So everybody handled, good job navigating tech. Anyways, I see a first question in the chat already there. Chris, you have a question on the config file.
Yeah, so you talked about this config file. I'm assuming it's a text file.
Yeah, it is a JSON file that our client will be able to modify.
Right. Okay. So I'm wondering, did you consider making a tool to be able to change those values, or maybe an XML file? Did you think that the JSON file was the easiest way to do this?
Yes, because this config file will also be needed to store on a server. So we think JSON is the most efficient data format we can do in order to have all these configurations feasible to fetch in the web.
John, you got a question on pace?
I do. So you forgive me if I have this wrong. This competition is, how long is it?
It is a 2-week long online.
So it's 2 week long, and then you have this wrapper that you're putting through it, or this game you're putting. How long into this do you think, your estimate, do you think somebody would play this game? How long would this game take in the 2 week span? What is the max, min max for that? Do you know? Can you guess?
Yeah, I think from our play testing, while some players did like run through the game without answering any of the challenges, but I think if since we have longer the travel time, I think it would take longer than at least 3 days for an average player to complete the game. And if they don't use challenges, don't use the tokens from challenges at any point, I think it would take longer than that.
Okay, thank you. Helps.
Any other questions? Going once, going twice.
I got one real quick one. So when your client hosts this, when this competition goes, at the end of this, will they be able to measure somehow how long your experience was interacted with? Is there some kind of data that they can read that sees what was going on?
We don't have a timer in game that tells how long the player is spending inside the game, but we have sort of achievement system, and also so the data we are storing on the game server contains how many planets are visited by the player, and also how is their level of upgrade on the spaceship, including engines and cargoes and translators and all the stuff, and also their level of quest accomplishment. So they will be able to infer about how is the progress that the player is doing in game.
Way good. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. Thanks, Drew.
All right. Congratulations, team. Good job. So if you can turn off your mics and cameras, and if Museum Live, if you're ready, turn your cameras on and I'll find you and spotlight you. Let's see. I found one. Looking. Looking. Who am I missing? Catherine, there you are. Okay. You're sitting so still. All right. Whenever you're ready.
Cool. Just get a double check from Kat. Are you able to share your screen? Cool. All right, I'll share my screen then. Get this formatted how I need it to be. Cool. Everyone can see my slides, right? Just get a quick thumbs up from the team. Cool. Awesome. So good afternoon, everyone, and thanks so much for coming out to our finals presentation. We are museum.live. This is our team. These are our faculty advisors, as well as our client point of contact, Ana Rodriguez Castillo. These are our partner institutions, and for everyone's reference, these are our project metrics. So this past fall, we developed the Virtual Tour Creator, a website that allows museum staff to upload and organize digital reference materials. Once uploaded, the staff can use these materials to share with their guests in live museum tours over Zoom. And so based on the work we did this semester, our partner museums plan to deploy the virtual tour creator for their staff for tours beginning as soon as January 2021. So I'll pass it off to Kat right now to show you around the VTC itself and shed some light on the background of this project.
Thanks, Derek. So I'll give you a quick demo of the guest-facing side of the virtual tour creator. Before I go through the demo, I just want to define a few terms. Media is any audio, video, or image files that are uploaded to be shared on a tour. Stops are when you have multiple media files that have been grouped together. And for tours like this, they consist of multiple stops. And we'll be starting out the demo assuming that I am a host sharing my screen during this Zoom call itself. The virtual tour creator has been put online by my administrator. My educator has already added the tour stops I need, and I've already organized the tour stops in the order I need them in. So for this tour called Finals Demo, you could see I have 6 stops. If we go to the first stop, within it, you can see that we have 5 different media files. We can navigate around the stop by pressing on the thumbnail itself, or we can use the arrows on either side. When we have double arrows, it indicates that you can move to the next stop itself. So we'll do that now. We want to tell you about the grant a little bit now. So the R.K. Mellon Foundation helped 5 Pennsylvania museums to adapt to restrictions due to COVID-19 by granting them this R.K. Mellon grant. From the grant itself, we can pull our design goal, that is to emphasize the deeply human experience of connecting to other people and to works of art. And then from the next sentence, we can pull our usability goal, which is that it'll be the tour rather than the electronic means of having experienced it that the participants will remember afterwards. So I'll show you another way to move between stops now. That's if you press the X button and then you just go to the stop itself. This is helpful if you're running out of time on a tour. But we want to tell you a little bit about the summer team that passed this off to us. So they narrowed down the possibilities. They did a lot of different play tests and designs, and they settled on a Zoom and CMS-like website combination. So this is a screenshot of the offline playable prototype that they gave us. And this developed the experience for the host, and then we went through and developed the other 2/3 of the experience for the educator and the administrator. And we developed the technical implementation for the tool. So I just want to do a brief recap. You might recall from Halves and earlier on in the semester, the technical administrator sets up the VTC, the educator uploads the media for the tour itself, and then the host is the role that I just demoed. And I'll pass it off to Derek now.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kat. So continuing our presentation back on our presentation slides, I'll start unpacking the question kind of why and how did we build the VTC? So as Kat mentioned from the grant, the project had 2 primary goals for whatever tool would ultimately be developed. The first, to focus on the works of art and other people, and the second, to be so simple and usable for staff and guests now that ultimately in recalling the experience they've had, that anyone involved should recall the experience as opposed to the technical implementation of it, really. And so based on these goals, looking at existing tools like PowerPoint or a vanilla CMS like WordPress, these tools fail to meet these needs for a few different reasons. The first being that neither was intrinsically designed to focus on the works of art or the objects. And while they could be adapted to do so, they weren't designed for this purpose from their outset. Additionally, neither of these tools really focused on two-way conversation. We call PowerPoint a presentation tool, for example, as opposed to a conversation tool. And finally, neither was simple or really usable enough for museum staff to host tours at the onset of COVID, either because they didn't accommodate for the technical fluency of our staff, or because they just didn't fit into those existing pipelines for developing in-person tours. So, to build the VTC, we actually started from WordPress to start adapting and to serve as a foundation for the rest of our work. We actually chose Pantheon as our hosting service since it really streamlined the process of launching the website as well as playtesting, due to the fact that it gives a full stack fork of the process. And finally, we developed the entire front end using the JavaScript framework of React. So to illustrate how we use these platforms to build a tool that could meet the goals outlined in the grant, I'll be diving into the story behind the presentation view that Kat showed off, specifically how that visual space is shared between the work of art itself and the text describing that work of art. So you can imagine that in a conventional museum tour, a work of art is typically accompanied by a placard or a text with additional information. At Halves, we had this functional prototype that had both the art as well as the text on the web page related to the art. So besides changing the page from black to white for our next iteration, we also decided to give an almost equal footing to the text in comparison to the art that it related to, as seen here. However, when we play tested with actual museum staff from the Frick, we found that they almost never referenced this text while conversing with their guests through Zoom. So thus you can see here that the only labels they really wanted to have were just the label for the piece or the media file in question. So thus our first big takeaway from this playtest was that the text was largely unnecessary for guests and staffs during a tour on Zoom. So to meet our design goal, we had to de-emphasize the text during the tour itself, which you can see in our current design. However, this text was sometimes useful for staff in preparing to give the tour or when sharing the tour to other staff members, something we discovered in talking with the Frick staff in greater detail. And so to make the tool really fit into the hand of the ultimate user of this, the staff of the museums, we had to keep that text available, but not necessarily visible to guests, which we implemented through this collapsible button design, which you can see here. You can also see this in other parts of our website with these functions specific to this tour on the tour page. So I'll pass it off to Ningshan now to kind of highlight how these project goals in some other design stories.
Sure. Thank you, Derek. And let's continue on our second design story on hierarchy of access and permission. Our virtual tour creator is designed for museum staff only, and guests will access the website through the share screen. So to restrict public access, users will be redirected and are required to log into their accounts in this login page. And having museum staff as our target users, we received the breakdown of 3 types of users that Kat mentioned before: administrators, educators, and hosts. Before Halves, we used 2 plugins to add roles that are not predefined in WordPress and control which dashboard functionalities could be accessed by each user role. After Halves, we have this setting playtested with both educators and hosts. Educators found that the dashboard very useful, but they asked for easy access to the onboarding documentation. So we added the Getting Started tab with instruction videos and user menu links in the dashboard. On the other hand, hosts felt comfortable to work only on the front end, so we kept iterating on the front end presentation mode, as Derek mentioned in the first design story. So right now on the front end, the educator and host both have tour management access. The question is, how do we prevent users from editing a tour while it's being presented? Our first solution for this was to add a visibility field that separates the private and public tours. After Halves, through interviews with the client about museum collaboration process, we came to realize that museum staff values transparency and the ability to collaborate on tours. That being said, every tour should be visible to all museum staff. However, staff still need a way to communicate when the tour is ready to be presented. So here's our second iteration of tour permissions. Now the tour status is now either complete, meaning the tour is ready to present, or incomplete, meaning it's still work in progress. And we'll limit the edit and delete permission according to the tour author and not the roles. So here's the final tour permission in some detail. We check and compare the login user ID to the current tour author ID. If the current user is the author, then they'll have full permission to the tour regardless of the completion status. If the current user is not the author, and then they are not allowed to delete the tours, and they cannot delete the tour until the author set it as incomplete. Now let's look at our last design story. As museum staff start to create more and more tours, at some point loading all tours on the library page will be getting slower. Thus, we introduced pagination to improve the website performance. However, how did we decide the magic number of how many tours per page? For this problem, we took 2 approaches. The first one is through playtest and interview, we wanted to understand when the users feel the loading time takes too long and need too much scrolling to locate the tour they're looking for. And second one is by stress test. We want to learn how the loading time increases with the number of tours. To measure the loading time, we created an auto tour generator where we're able to approximate the networking loading time for different number of tours. Here's the result from 0 to 100 tours. We concluded from this chart and more user interviews that loading time with 10 plus tours is becoming noticeable slow to users. And we also learned information that a museum will usually create 5 to 10 tours in 6 months. So we managed to narrow it down to 5 tours per page to satisfy the needs both functionally and visually. And next, Angela will talk about our deliverables.
Thank you, Ningxuan. So now let's talk about how the VTC is used and what deliverables we'll provide to help our client use it. Since client requirement is our most important metric, we have met with our client, Anna, and other museum staff as much as possible, sharing our progress, feedback, and working on designing the best solutions for all 5 museum partners. So our final deliverables include a series of resources, which can be summarized into resources for museum staff and resources for future developers. As for the museum resources, first of all, we have the VTC website itself. We've created 5 Pantheon sandboxes and pulled our development side to them. With the sandboxes being given to our clients, they can choose to launch their own version of the website whenever they want. Next, we are providing a master user manual documenting how to use the website. We have gone over it in detail with our clients, and we're going to pass the final documentation to them later this week. We also created our first tutorial walkthrough on week 9, so the clients have gotten a lot of exposure to its various iterations since then, and they feel very comfortable with the flow of information presented in it. We believe the documentation and the tutorial video will become solid materials for museum's training process. So after we deliver the website to our clients, they will possibly hire some developers to continue the work, and we prepare some resources to help them. First, we made a technical documentation to help the future developers understand how this website works and also help them troubleshoot any future issues. So various sections in this tech doc have been reviewed by some ETC faculty like Brian and Mike, and we got a lot of useful feedback to iterate on the doc. Second, we made a GitHub repository with 5 branches for each museum to continue future work on their respective Pantheon sandboxes. And now I'll pass on to Grace to talk about how our project was received so far.
Thank you, Angela. As Derek and Ningxuan alluded to earlier, these are some lessons we learned. We built tools that we thought would be helpful, but oftentimes they didn't help the client because our client needed things more simplified. The summer team did survey work, but we didn't take advantage of it, so we didn't know our audience well enough. We also learned that it's important taking into account the lowest user technical fluency, not leaving any users behind. These were harsh lessons learned, but after week 8, we really worked together to change these behaviors and improve in those areas. We have a few words to share from some of our partners.
We love the way we're going to start using right away. We're going to, train up our staff, and we have plans to offer public experiences starting in January. I mean, I would not be doing that if it wasn't for this tool, and that happened in the last couple of months. So we are incredibly grateful to the team, to the effort you put in, and the fact that you listened to us is really important. You did not come in, you had your goals and your knowledge, and I know you're all capable of doing more tech projects than what this turned out to be, but what you did was create something that we needed, and that will give a lot of people a lot of experiences that they wouldn't have had otherwise. So no, we're grateful. You were a wonderful team to work with, and you listened to us, which was really, really important. And I thank you for that.
So to conclude, we developed the Virtual Tour Creator, a website that allows museum staff to upload and organize digital reference materials. Staff can then share these materials with guests in live museum tours over Zoom. Our partner museums plan to deploy the VTC in January 2021. We'd like to say thank you to the many museum staff and ETC faculty that helped to playtest this and make it better. And we are open for questions now.
All right, good job,
Yay,
team.
Museum Live.
Congratulations. So questions, throw them in the chat or just speak up. I'm trying to help navigate. Dave's having tech issues as well. The internet's acting up today.
Yeah, it is. The internet is acting up quite a bit today, actually.
Is that a question, Ralph, or just a statement?
That's a broad statement.
Mike, you have a question.
Yeah, I have a question about your getting started guide, because I think it's really useful for the museum staff. Is that just onboarding, or can you look at that and get a sense of how to do something like edit your media to change a tour that you're working on that's still incomplete? And also one other question about that guide, are all the pieces in video form plus text? Because YouTube how-to videos are really popular.
Oh, Kat, I think you're muted.
Do you want to take that, Derek?
Yeah, sure. So we've kind of looked at it. We tried to be as comprehensive as possible. I think our philosophy has just been, we use the video, right, as the initial onboarding, with the documentation as more in-depth deep dive, right? We've put in glossaries, functions that were not covered in the video itself, different file formats, as well as troubleshooting like certain functions or common errors. Power to our playtesters. They know how to find every button and every bug that we hope they would not find in our playtesting. So we really use the documentation as a place to dive deep, and that initial video as really answering that question, what can you watch in 5 to 10 minutes to get started making tours?
All right, Ralph, you have a question for Reels?
Yeah, I do actually. Okay, so I'm going to direct this to Kat. Kat, is anything you would have done differently now that you've gone through the whole process?
I would like to focus on the videos more. Yeah, we were only able to like make the video for the onboarding, as Mike mentioned. And then we had to put a lot more in documentation because the videos take so long to make. But I don't know how we do it, but I would want to, make more videos so that we could get more people onboarded faster. I would like to make videos for like the host and the administrator and other roles that we just didn't have time to do.
Yeah, that would have been cool. Thank you.
All right, Mo, you got a question on end users?
Yeah, you had a few different types of end users. What was tricky about designing for multiple types of end users? And then in terms of those groups, which was the trickiest group to design for?
I'll take it really quick, and then if anybody else wants to jump in. Hosts, I would say, were the most tricky to design for. They have a very different technical background, I would say, than any of us, or probably any ETC staff. So figuring out how to tailor the tool to them, because we had to figure out why Google Slides and PowerPoint didn't work for them. It took us a while to understand the conversation aspect that those tools weren't meeting. So yeah, it took us a long time for hosts to understand like what their needs were.
All right, that's time. Thank you, team. Congratulations to all the teams that went today. That is today's round of final presentations. Good job to the teams. Everybody else have a great evening. We'll see you all tomorrow afternoon. And faculty, we'll see each other in another Zoom.